When everything's not going right, like I say, if it doesn't matter if hell's happening on the external world, if I internally create this peace within myself, then everything's going right. Like, it doesn't matter what situation I'm in, as long as I hold my word to myself, stay accountable to myself and what I set out for myself, and actually build that confidence through the work I put in. Because the more work you put into yourself, the more worth is provided. So if you don't, if people invest a lot in their vehicles, their jobs, and all this stuff, but they fail and they have a lack of work ethic towards their inner self. So if they really work in their selves, then they'll gain the confidence they're looking for. So that's pretty much, it's pretty much what I do.
Welcome to the beautiful side of grief. And today I'm talking to a young guy, John Kimble, who really ventured on the wrong side of life. He wanted to be a gangster. He had no remorse around the things he did. He robbed houses, sold drugs, had addictions, had attempted suicide a couple of times, had multiple felonies, and eventually ended up in a psych ward, diagnosed as a sociopath. That's some super heavy stuff to go through. Yet, he turned that all around to now having his own fitness center, KimbleFit, and his mission now is to help others find the life they want through the same means that he helped himself. What a transformation at such an incredibly young age. So let's get into it and see just how he did that. Hey, John, great to be chatting with you today.
Hey, thank you for having me.
You're so welcome. We were just having a quick chat beforehand before we went on air, and I was just telling you how impressed I am that at such a young age, you've been through so much, but you've also managed to turn your life around. So really excited to be talking about that. But you really put yourself through the ringer in your younger days. Can you tell us what your early home life was like, where you grew up, your mother, father, siblings, that type of thing? Just to give us a sort of foundation.
Right, yeah. And this is what's crazy, right? I always say this, is that I grew up in a very, good raised home, like a Christian-based home. My parents and everything really raised me on the right side and did everything they could. Not every parent is perfect, but they did everything they could. They did pretty good raising me, but I just got deterred down the wrong path because of just influence. I was just influenced by the wrong people. I was influenced by drug dealers and all this stuff, and ultimately that led to gang violence and the life of crime, robbing, but it all led and all stemmed from getting drugs. That's what we wanted to do. We had to get money to get that. So that's where it really became a problem. And that's where the depression led, and all that stuff was the drug. But like I said, was raised in a very good home, and it was just that negative influence that deterred me.
That's so good to know, because so often we think, okay, you had to have had a really dysfunctional childhood to go down that path. Mm-hmm. But really, it was just the allure of the gangster life. What was it about that really attracted you?
Well, the little brother it was the biggest known drug dealer in the city. His little brother, I was friends with him. And there'd be kids that would try to start stuff at school, but he would always stick up for me and stand up for me. So I'd always felt a bond with him. So I just started hanging around him. And especially at that age, it's so easily influenced.
What age were you?
That's what I was by that time, probably 14, 15. That's where it really started. And then, that's where we started stealing. It started off with simple stuff, just stealing from the teachers and whatnot, something stupid like that. And then it ended out with the houses and all that.
So what was the reality of that life once you got into it? Was it what you expected? And how did it make you feel as a person?
No, it's exactly what I expected. I actually wanted to go to jail in all these places, right? But the moment that I actually got into something like that, I realized that it wasn't where exactly I wanted to go. The moment I actually was admitted into the psych unit, I did massive reflection because of the isolation I was in. And I really saw all the pain I was causing to everyone else. And ultimately, that really was a deterrence for me continuing down that path. That's when I really realized that I didn't want to go down that path, because everything that we externally give onto others, we inwardly receive right back to us. So if we give out negativity, thinking that it only affects us, it affects everyone else just as much, if not worse. So I saw how much it was affecting my parents. And then that really made me not want to continue down that path.
See, that's a big thing to have that type of introspection at such a young age. So let's just go back a step. Was it in the psych ward that you were diagnosed as a sociopath? Is that where that diagnosis came from? And can you just elaborate on that for our listeners that may not know exactly what that means?
Yeah, of course. So they wanted to do that because of how heavily addicted I was to alcohol at the time. They even put me in a isolated room away from everyone because they wanted to watch over me and monitor me. And it's just symptoms like that. And I believe that I wasn't a sociopath at the time. I just participated in actions that was sociopathic, like we're not labeled these mental illnesses. We just partake in actions that eventually lead up to something like it. So I was doing that, the criminal activity, getting arrested, having a lack of empathy, they say they don't have any conscience, but everybody has a conscience. Like I said, it just gets lost in some places from ignoring it for so long that eventually it leads down the path of that. And then, yeah, that's what they wanted to diagnose me with. But truly deep down inside, I knew I wasn't that. But they wanted to give me these therapists for it and these meds and all this. And like I always say, like they wanted to give me all of that, but I refused it. I refused it at the time because of course my mindset was juvenile. But the moment I got out, I got hooked back on all the stuff and I was coming off of a bad hangover. And that was like a pinnacle moment of my life where I learned and I really implemented the things that I still use now. It was just my self-talk, like peak physical performance. Right after I woke up off of that couch from a hangover, I went and run. I just ran until I couldn't anymore. And I had self-talk that was just like undeniably strictly aligned with the person that I wanted to become. And that helped me more than the therapists and the pills and all this stuff ever did. And the rehab, they even wanted me to send me there. But the only thing that really helped me was truly being honest and accountable for my like internal feelings, what I was feeling. Because I was like, depression is just a common problem.
So did all of that come from that time you spent in reflection and isolation? Was that really what started the ball rolling to you deciding that actually you needed to change your life up? You needed to have a different focus?
Yeah, that's exactly what did it. Because when you travel alone, you reflect more. So the moment I was alone and thoughts really started to seep in and I wasn't relying on an external source for an internal problem, like I really sought deep within internally. And then me reflecting on all the problems in the past and all the pain I caused, that's what, like you said, really allowed me to change.
Yeah. So again, it's such a big thing that you're talking about and doing, because I guess there are many people that think in their head, okay, I want my life to change. And then they say, get out, and they go right back to where they were. Same habits, same people, same friends, and that. How did you resist the temptation to get drawn back into that lifestyle again?
Yeah, so the moment that I actually said I was gonna quit and then I did and I threw everything away in the trash and I got everything back out the trash right after because I never really had a personal development process to strengthen me above John Kimble, above that. So now I have a process, let's just say intense physical action that it really gets your heart rate going and it alleviates you from any negative vices or temptations that you had once before. So I just got around the right group of people and I had actions, habits, and a mindset change that really aligned me to the person that I wanted to become. Right when that motivation strikes you to be a better person, that's when you have to act on it and create like a goal plan, an action plan, and really set out habits, like little habits, not huge ones that you get discouraged by, like right off the bat. Little ones that over time build up to something amountful. So that's what I did. And
Yeah.
that's really what changed everything.
Yeah, one step at a time, just step, step, step. Be
Yeah.
prepared to go back a couple of steps and then try it all again and just keep going forward. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, that is
Yeah.
exactly what I'm saying because people burn out when they throw everything at themselves at once. So the moment that I threw the things away and I actually had a personal development process to strengthen me and to have to replace, the only thing I did was replace something of a lower nature with that of a higher nature, right? So instead of the external source, like the drugs and alcohol I used, let's just say running and burpees and self-talk and stuff like this, stuff like mindset change, my early wake up, my morning reflection on everything I regret, that I replaced that with the vices. And then that changed my life because I was forward projecting towards something in the future So I never really was past regressing towards anything that was ailing me in the past.
Had you always had this type of mindset? Because it sounds like once you commit to something, you're all in.
Yeah, no, I always have. Even when I got arrested, the cop was like, man, I've never seen a kid. We've never had this. It's very rare that somebody does all this at once. Usually they build up charges over time, but you just did it all at once. So it's really, yeah, if I do something, then I'm going like all out, like
Yeah,
even in
because
my
I'm just,
business.
yeah. And that's fantastic. We're going to talk to that in a minute. But let's go back because what I really want to understand is I read that you had a spiritualist experience in the midst of all of this as well. Is that correct? And if so, what was that like? How did that come to you?
Spiritual experience. So there was many times where I've had like the aha moments throughout my journey, but I never really acted upon it because a lot of people do have those moments where they want to change, but like I said, they never create any goal or action plan to really stick to over time. But yeah, the spiritual moment, there was one actually when I got out the psych ward. Like I said, when I was in there, I reflected a lot and I saw the pain I was causing. But when I got out, even when I got out, although I had that mindset, I still went back and drew back to the vices and everything. The moment that, like I said, I replaced that of a lower nature of a higher nature and really had those actions that aligned strictly to the person that I want to become in the future, that's when it all changed. When I actually stuck to the habits. Because once you see like results from the little like monotonous tasks that you're doing, then that's when the motivation comes as well.
I just want to drill down into that because there are a lot of people that say they want to change and they want to do something. But what you're doing is saying that when you had time to reflect, this is it. When you had time to reflect, you could see all the harm and the pain and have remorse for what you were doing. Now that's really insightful because I know a lot of adults today that are still busy blaming everything externally. It's their family, it's their work, it's their fitness, it's their illness, it's whatever they want it to be. But really, I think the true transformation starts to happen is when you start taking accountability for it, which is exactly what you did. So I think, just from a personal perspective, that's where that catalyst for change came. But what do you say to people who are still making up excuses or looking externally to change?
Yeah, you can't exist on an external source for an internal problem. Like I started blaming others for my problems, but really the only thing and the only person that I actually needed to blame was my own self for all my fuck ups and everything. That's what I needed to change. And every time when I thought that it was everyone else's problem, like I thought I was perfectly fine. But the moment I started blaming myself, that's when I saw the change around me. Like I actually took accountability. That's what I say. Look, I looked in the accountability mirror. Like I looked in an actual mirror, but people just need to look really like internally within themselves and see and hold themselves and accept everything they're doing wrong. Because actually, if you look up like a frequency chart online, it'll show acceptance is one of the highest. It's one of the top ones on there because once you accept everything that's wrong with you, you get massive clarity because you actually had enough courage to say that, oh, like I am dealing with this and then I am the source of my problems. This is really stemming from me, not anyone else. And then you'll realize that the source of your problem or the solution to your problem exists within you. Instead of, like I said, seeking externally for advice to solve it internally, you just seek deep within and really reflect.
So I'm really grateful you explained that in a bit more detail for people to understand. How old are you now, John?
I'm 18. I just turned 18 31st of October.
Okay, so how long have you been undergoing this transformation for?
Like 2 years.
2 years.
2 years, 2.5 years, 3 years. It's crazy because once you really transcend self, like once you really, like I was addicted, right? I was going on the wrong path, but I was so disciplined and dedicated on the wrong path. So the moment I switched over to the right one, then that's where everything changed in my life. Like that's where everything just transformed.
But it's also that incredible level of awareness that you've got at your age that I find so incredible. I talk to a lot of people, and some people have taken late into life to start having these realizations that actually it all comes from within. It's taking ownership. You're responsible. You're at the helm for your life. And indeed, it took me a long time. So that's what I find incredible about you and your story. Tell us about what some of the big challenges were for you. I know you were committed to changing your life and just getting into it and doing it day by day. But were there some challenges that you had to overcome in that process?
Yeah, of course, there was many challenges, especially on the start of the personal development journey. There's always is because it's juvenile at first, and the temptations and the desires always still seek in. So that's why you can't quit just because you gave up one time doesn't mean that you have to like the rest of the days. Just because something in the morning messed up or deterred that mindset doesn't mean that you have to have that off mindset for the rest of the day. But the things I did was I took that adversity as a lesson, as opportunities to actually reflect on where I messed up and take it as an opportunity for growth and to better myself. Because, like I said, I actually was just talking about this. Instead of exploiting my strengths, like I really expose my weaknesses through reflecting on what I regret. That's what I do in the morning. Like I do my morning reflection after the gym, and I'm like, what did I not do yesterday that I was supposed to do? Or who could I have helped that I didn't? Like I really reflect on that. And then that's where I really can see all the flaws in my character instead of, like I said, focusing on my strengths.
Did you have the desire to set up your KimbleFit company right from the get-go? Was that one of your goals, or did that just come along as you started this journey of getting yourself fit and on the right track?
Yeah, that just came along. Like people saw me change and then they asked me everything about what I was doing. And then they came to me with their problems. And I was like, oh, let me make a website like where I can just exploit all my knowledge on wisdom on there. And that's where like still on my website to this day, I have those blogs, my first blogs that I ever posted, because all I wanted to do was just create a website to help people, to give them like free value and to really help them with their problems because they always ran to me with theirs. And it always felt good giving back. Like I said, everything in which we want to internally receive, like we externally give onto others. So that's really where it came from. I didn't even
Yeah.
know you can charge for this stuff. I didn't even know. I just did it. Yeah.
Yeah. And that sense of giving, I 1000% agree with you. There's no better feeling than helping somebody or giving something freely without any expectation in return. What were some of the key problems that people were coming to you with?
Actually, the first person that ever really came to me with something, oh, it was something like a money problem they were struggling with, but it was like really deeper within. It was something about how he didn't have enough money to buy his little brother a Christmas present or his mom a present or something. And even though it seems like very little and juvenile, like it really saw deeper within. I don't know. His parents got a divorce or something, and he was coming to me with his problems. And, I just gave him some money and gave him some like gems and knowledge that I used and wisdom to help him. And then he's been following me like ever since then. And he's just been so attached to me because I've always helped him. And just to see like that impact that you can cause on someone's life. And for example, like last week, somebody called me. They just got admitted into a psych unit as well. And they were thinking about taking their life. And he called me because he said he's 50 something years old. And he said, it's crazy that I'm calling an 18-year-old for this stuff. But man, it's just a special connection. Like I just feel something because I have so much knowledge and wisdom that I've gained over the years. Like he knows that I know some shit because I've been through like what he's going through. So I shared it and I helped him. And it's always those calls that realign you with what you're really supposed to do in life.
Yeah. Yeah. You definitely are an old soul. You feel like you've just jumped onto this journey and taken it by the reins and just really charged ahead. So what are you trying to do with your fitness, with KimbleFit? What is the purpose and the goals of this?
Is it just change the world person by person, like one person at a time, get them physically fit, like really track their macros and training, because that's what I did first to change everything in my life, like the first thing I ever did was get my like nutrition and training right. Like every time it felt like when I had to change my life, I was like, oh, I got to start tracking and training my nutrition. Like every time when I started to change my life, it felt like that was the first thing I needed to do. So that's where it really came from as well, because that's like a gateway to this discipline and this high frequency mindset that I always preach about. Like high frequency, if people don't know what that is, it's just really elevating your mental status to a way more positive one through something. Let's just say if you're avoiding something and you run into it, or if you do, I always preach about like intense physical action. If you do burpees and if you get your blood oxidation level moving, then you get in what I call a higher frequency, but you get that like dopamine and all of that rush, and you really push past all the negative vices and desires that you were plagued with. And you just only see the positive outlook of the problem instead of dwelling on the negatives of it. And that's what that mindset, like group call that I have after every week on my program, that's what the mindset training and nutrition is about. So that's pretty much what KimbleFit is. It's just getting them mentally and physically right. But some people just want to get physically right. But it always leads to something mental. It's always a deeper problem within. But yeah.
Yeah. And we're in an age where everything can be done online. So have you set your business up so that you can help people anywhere in the world?
Yeah, I even had clients in India. It's like I just get them into the app and we can still have the group call and all that stuff. Or if they want to work one-on-one, I have that too, because it's just really going in depth with their problems and really finding the solution. But yeah, it's everywhere. That is the informational age. Everything's online, like you said.
Yeah, I heard this great definition of anger today, and it was like the emotional punishment you give yourself for someone else's behavior. And I thought to myself, that is so good. Are you dealing with a lot of those emotions within people? Because I often find people are not aware of their emotions. They just have these bursts of anger or frustration, or I don't know, you could just about name any emotion. And people don't realize where they're even stemming from. So do you have much of that you're dealing with? And if so, what are you recommending to people?
Yeah, I actually wake up like all the time negative. And every time when like I think I have my ducks in a row, and let's just say my ego is running rampant or something, and then something happens and it always knocks me off course, I'm like, oh shit. But I just realized that, like, this is what I tell myself. I tell myself that, oh, I'm nobody in this life. All I am is a vessel that needs to give to everyone else. But that's what I always preach in my program. And that's why I have this system that no matter what happens or no matter what's plaguing me on the inside, like any negativity, anger, or whatever, if I wake up negative, I run right into my personal development process, which is like my early wake up, my morning reflection, and my workout. And that always realigns me to a more positive mindset. And I'm not really dealing with any negative narratives of the past. I'm not really plagued with any anger, depression, or any of these vices and temptations, because I'm solely focused on, like I said, chasing that higher frequency, like existing outside the bounds and needs of your human body's existence. And you're really existing within the soul of yourself. So you're transcending to a higher level. And like I said, you're just seeing the world in a way different way. Like how we see the world externally is an internal perception and an internal reflection of us, of how we see ourselves. So if everything's not going right in our life, then we'll see the world as nothing's going right in the world. But if we really, truly like better ourselves and get in that positive mindset, then everything in the world's going right.
Yeah. Also, too, I think that type of mindset also helps us cope with all the chaos that's happening in the world as well, because there is so much chaos out there. So you can choose to buy into that and listen to it and immerse yourself in it and get taken down with it. Or you can choose to stay at a higher level, higher vibration above it all, and just concentrate on what you can do. Is that what you do around that sort of thing?
Yes, that's exactly what I do. Like when everything's not going right, I just, like I say, if it doesn't matter if hell's happening on the external world, if I internally create this peace within myself, then everything's going right. You know, it doesn't matter what situation I'm in, as long as I hold my word to myself, stay accountable to myself and what I set out for myself, and actually build that confidence through the work I put in, because the more work you put into yourself, the more worth is provided. So if you don't, if people invest a lot in their vehicles, their jobs, and all this stuff, but they fail and they have a lack of work ethic towards their inner self. So if they really work in their selves, then they'll gain the confidence they're looking for. So that's pretty much, it's pretty much what I do.
Yeah. So you've had a couple of brushes where you felt like you've wanted to take your own life. And what would you recommend to others out there who are feeling the same way, that they feel like there's no purpose, no direction, just to snap them out of that mindset?
Yeah, like I was saying, somebody called me last week about that, how they were trying to, and I was saying, and how he said he was taking like these pills and stuff, and that's what I was telling him, to not truly rely on an external source, to really seek deep within internally and realize that what you're dealing with is like a common ass problem, right? Like with depression, and you're really being selfish in that situation. Like you really need to outwardly seek someone else's problem and go help somebody else out with theirs and see how you feel internally, because like you're solely focused. He was solely focused and solely just truly, really diving deep in what he was dealing with, which is good, but still go help someone else out with their problems and see how it exponentially helps yours out. And just having it's either high frequency or low frequency. A person let me say this. I was in the psych ward, and there was people, suicidal people and all this. They try to take their life. But the moment that they got into flow state, the moment they got in like a higher vibration, that's the moment when there was laughing, and then all this, they was talking about all this positive stuff, this positive change. You would have never even guessed they would have been plagued with that. And they weren't at that point. They weren't depressed at that moment because it was high frequency or low frequency. It's either they're in a low frequency mindset where they do want to take their life, or they're in a high frequency mindset where they don't, and they're only existing inside everything positive of that situation. And that's pretty much it. And it's just having those tools to realign you every time you do go negative. And let's just say it doesn't work, but over time you build discipline that realigns you with your best self. And you can really stop yourself from going down that negative thought process because of the discipline you build over time from investing so much into you.
Yeah, just like you said, like every morning you wake up with a negative mindset, and what you do is you counsel yourself out of that. You do the things that are going to lift you up and set your day up in a way that you're only going to be attracting those positive flow state type of experiences.
Yeah.
Talk to me about grief. Where have you seen grief in your life, and how is that manifested? And let's talk about that a little bit.
Well, grief is everywhere. It's in the family's losses, and it's even in the psych units. There's a lot of grief, with people and their families and all this. But really the thing is about that is I just take it as an opportunity to really look at the situation, and instead of coping with it with, like I said, the external sources, like really run into it more, because like you just talked about how I'm dealing with the anger or whatever when I wake up with it. Over time, just running into the anger instead of running away from it, you build like calluses on your mind. You build this like neurological pathway that lets you run into the situation in a different way, in a different manner. So if you look at that problem or the grief in a third person point of view, and you see everything that you can get from it, like you react off of thoughts and logics instead of feelings and emotions. And it's okay to react off of feelings and emotions at first. Everybody does. Everybody's human, right? But you don't stay that way. You don't stay that way year after year of constantly dwelling on the problem. Eventually, you're going to have to run right into the solution. Life's too short to keep dwelling on what ailed you in the past. So if you really have something to forward project you into the future, you're never going to deal with any negative or grief that's happened to you in the past, because you're constantly staying and solely focusing on something that's forward progressing you in the future. Like you're working on something. That's why personal development's so good, because it's a never ending journey. We're always working on something.
Yeah, that's really good information. Really good analogy there. Just talk to me about flow state. What does that feel like for you when you're in a flow state? Describe for us how that feels.
It's probably the best feeling out there because you're existing outside the bounds of your wants and desires, and you're existing within like everything that you should be. You're not realizing time as it passes by. That's what flow state is. Like, you're so intrigued and invoked in what you're doing that, you're just flowing. You don't realize what's happening around you because you're solely focused on the thing in front of you. So that's what, and it's just, it really puts you out of the mindset of what you want and all these desires that you may have and all these like external sources of validation that you're seeking. And it really allows you to just solely focus in on what you're doing and have a positive mindset towards it and not really be deterred by any negativity going on because you're just in flow state. You're flowing. That's what the high frequency is. It's just flow state. Even at a job or something, like you can get in flow state by self-talk, by talking to yourself in a different way, in a different manner. Yeah, I'm tired and shit, but I'm gonna crush it. Like, I'm even go harder today. Like, that puts
Yeah.
you in flow state.
Yeah. And that's often where you get solutions to problems coming from. They just magically appear, don't they? It's just like coming out of the ether, like you were just working on something and then something will pop into your mind and you go, yeah, that's what I was looking for. Yeah. Talk to me now about the importance of love in our lives.
Well, love is very important because I look at it as like an emotional thing of support because my parents showed me love all the time when I was going down the wrong path in life, which really helped me out. But there's a lot of things that parents can do, but ultimately on the universe, when the universe puts you down a path, like there's nothing that you can actually do to that person. But no, and gave me a lot of compression. And that was the thing. They didn't lie to me. Love isn't lies. So why would they give me more comfort when comfort was the thing that destroyed me in the first place? And they didn't lie to me. And that was really showing that they truly loved me. Like, I tell my people all the time, people that are letting themselves go around me, I'm like, my friends all the time, they're young and they don't have this body that I have. So I'm like, and I call them up. People think you're calling them out, but really you're calling them up into everything in which they should be. And even men out there like 30, 40, 50 that their habits are not aligned with the future or the husband and father that they want to become. You don't lie to them. Like, you actually express the truth. Dude, you have tits as a man. This is not okay. Like, you're a dude and you have tits. Like, your child's going to be confused on who to breastfeed off of because of this. This is not okay. And it's just not lying to them. Instead of looking into yourself in the mirror and saying, I love myself. And if you truly don't love yourself, like, you have to really be accountable and really be honest on why you don't. And you have to seek that problem and fix it and just seek a solution that makes you do love yourself instead of lying to yourself. That's what true love is.
Yeah. Can you look in the mirror? Tell yourself you love you?
Well, I can because I've listened to my conscience over time. And I just know that whatever it tells me, I'm doing it that second right on the moment. And that really builds that true love for yourself. Really sticking to your word. As long as if you set out a goal or if you tell yourself you're going to do something or your people you're going to do something. And if you do it, then that will equal abundance amount of love and self-confidence.
Oh, I love that. Who is the John Kimble now who looks back at you from the mirror?
It's just the John Kimble now that's in the mirror. It's just, I don't even care who I am. I just care about that I'm a vessel and I have this message to preach and give out to everyone else. And it's just a person, just disciplined, confident, that really sticks to his word and holds his word to himself, because over time, confidence is consistent implementation. That's what confidence is a byproduct of. So if you just consistently implement all these tasks, it'll eventually build confidence. And that's who I see when I look in the mirror. It's just a confident individual that runs into everything that's most hardest for him. And over time, that builds like an unbreakable mindset that I've created now.
And that's the energy you're putting out to others too, isn't it? Because that's what they feel when they're around you. They feel that confidence. They feel that love. They feel that you've worked hard for what you're doing. And I guess that is a huge inspiration to others. What haven't we had a chat about, John, that you would like our listeners most to know?
It's probably like validating yourself with your own habits and actions, because even though like I've overcome what was most hardest for me. Like seeing people in my area crushing it, right? They're crushing it. And I know I'm 18, but I compare myself to the greatest in my area, which is not good. People should not compare their level 1 to someone else's level 20, chapter 20 in life. Like do everything that you can within that day to strengthen yourself, and do everything that bring 110% into that day, not really seeing too far into the future, like bettering yourself 1% every day. Like I said, planting those seeds, those little seeds that grow over time. And it eventually in the end, it'll build into something big. But it just day by day, like really working on yourself, validating yourself from within through your habits and actions, not seeking an external source of validation from anyone else out there. You know, even though it's hard to, because when someone tells us something that, or when somebody tells us something that they're elevating way more in life in than us, if we're doing everything that we possibly can to exceed in that area, it's hard to not get discouraged. However, that's why I have this process and program, because it realigns me, and my self-talk realigns me to really seek deep within and realize that I'm doing all what I can with what I have now until I actually get more in life. So that's just it.
Comparing ourselves to others, I think that can be one of the most soul-destroying things to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we each have our own journey, our own path, how that looks like. Maybe it's not our journey this lifetime to be the person who has all the toys or everything like that. And whose standard is that anyway? Like for me, to surround myself with friends and people I love being with, and to have that beautiful energy and flow state is far more important than any material thing. But yeah, when you have to work out what it is for you, that's important, don't you? Hey, John, I'm going to finish up with a couple of questions that I ask everyone on the podcast. So what is the best thing that has happened to you so far today?
Was this the calls getting in the flow state? Of course. I mean, that's always is just realigning myself to the best version of myself, that higher frequency, through giving to others everything I wish to receive within myself.
Oh, love that. What is something that you are grateful for?
Just breathing, like literally, and that's the thing, that's the thing, right? If people just stop and then calm their mind and really look back on what they're grateful for. Oh, I can walk, like I can breathe, like I have this home to come to and everything. So that's what's really, because we always forget at the end of the day, our minds are always fogged by everything that we're focused on in the future or something in the past. But really we have to be solely grateful on what we have now in the present.
I think people underestimate the power of gratitude, don't they? Because when you take yourself back to those simple things, it's a beautiful day. Hey, I've got hot running water and power. Life is good for me. I've got a roof over my head, those sorts of things.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And nobody realized that until everything's really stripped away from. When
Yes.
everything's stripped away from them, especially, I should say, when I was on the run and I would see the police cars pass looking for me, I was like, oh my, I thought I was just gone. I thought I was gone for life or something. When everything was stripped away from me at that moment. And I had dinner with my family that night, and that was like one of the best moments of my life, just having dinner, like just a normal every night dinner for my family. But the difference with that was I wasn't in a jail cell or anything. I was sitting, just having a simple, nice dinner with my family in a nice home. And I was just like, enough.
Yeah, it changes the whole perspective, doesn't it? When you're having moments in your day that are turning to custard, or you've set yourself up and then something happens and it takes you off course, how do you pivot out of those moments?
Yeah, it always happens. Yeah, it always happens. But I just do what I can that day, and I just keep sticking to the process and program that I laid out for myself. So if I have something to do, I just stick to it. And that's the thing. Sometimes and every single day, we might not get that enlightening feeling or that clarity that we get on most days. Like some days we don't get any enlightening or any high frequency moment, but we just have to still stick, and we have to run into what will get us to a higher frequency, even if we don't get it anyway. Even if the feeling is vague at the moment, we still have to run into it, and we still have to consistently do it. Because when we do it, and when we do get a high frequency from it, we'll regret on the time past being that we didn't follow through on our word. So no matter how you're feeling, you just still get it done.
Yeah.
And then over time, that builds just an abundant amount of confidence.
Yeah. It's living authentically, isn't it? You know, standing by your
Yes.
word, having the courage to say no to people, say yes to people. We take that for granted, but actually, I think truly stepping into ourselves and being the best we can possibly be, exactly as we are, as our personality, that's a big thing. And I love that you're helping people to do that. John, any other parting thoughts that you'd like to leave our listeners with?
No, that's pretty much it. Pretty
Yeah.
much it. I mean, that's one of the biggest things and the biggest takeaways that I've learned. When things try to throw you off, you just stay consistent. No matter how you feel, you just keep doing them. And then there's winning seasons and losing seasons. You're gonna go through, let's just say, a losing season, but if you stay consistent and do everything in which you're supposed to do, you'll feel, like I said, an abundance amount of gratitude when you do win in life. Because not every single day is like sunshine and rainbows and you win. Things happen, right? Things deter you
Yeah.
off the path. But that's why I have this program and my program to restructure me back to alignment. Because at the end of the day, no matter what happened, I can lay my head down on the pillow and rest easy knowing that I gave everything and I gave my all into the day with all I did. Because that cliche quote goes, how you do one thing is how you do everything. But it's so true.
Yes. Yeah, I agree with you. John, how can people reach you? Any listeners, how can they contact you?
KimbleFit.com on my website and Kimble_fit on Instagram. I'm always on Instagram, like
Yeah.
24/7. That's where I do my posts, my early wake up and everything. I haven't missed a post on Instagram, like a story post with my early wake up. And I think 560 days going now.
Oh, just so inspiring. I bet there's many people who will be listening to this and going, man, I wish I had his wisdom back at 18 years old. Gosh, life would have turned out so differently, but it's never too late. What age
Yeah.
range do you typically deal with? Like you talked about older guys contacting you.
Mhm.
Do you work with anyone and everyone?
I do, yeah. People at my age and people like in their 50s and 60s. I mean, I've had 50-year-old clients. That was my first clients ever starting out, was just older people, way older people like that. Like I was an anesthesiologist. I don't know, like recently trained, and she was in her 50s. So it's a lot of people. I actually like and prefer training older people because you can really, I don't know, it's always a deeper problem with them, especially like that they're really plagued with. It starts off juvenile or something like just wanting to get their body right, and then it's really like a confidence issue or something that they're dealing with. And it's also that's why you started.
Yeah, it's like the onion, isn't it? You're peeling back the layers until
Yeah,
you're getting to
yeah,
the crux of what's really going on. And once you address that, that's when you can have those massive changes and transformations.
yeah. Mhm.
Hey, John, what an absolute pleasure it has been to get to know you today, to hear your story, to hear just the incredibly inspiring way that you look at life, even though you freely admit that it's not a piece of cake for you. You don't wake up, Mr. I'm happy and everything's going well, that it
Yeah.
is an effort every single day. And I think that takes courage and strength in my book. And so I'm so grateful to have you speaking to us today and as a guest.
Oh, thank you. And yeah, oh my gosh, you said that was like a gem right there because it's always earned. Like if everything positive in this life was just given to us, it would be so simple and easy. But it's positivity and it's a high frequency because it's earned. We always start at like a neutral state or a low state, but we have to do the actions and partake in everything that gets us to an even higher one. So that's why I do my early wake up and I don't miss and I do my workout because it's earned. I have to earn that gratitude and that positive mental state in the morning because nobody wakes up like happy-go-lucky every single morning.
No. What can I say? What a privilege to have you as a guest today. And I'm certainly hoping that our listeners really get a lot of value from this because what you've done is taken things back to the grassroots level. And let's just discipline ourselves. Let's just commit to things. Let's be accountable and let's look within rather than without, rather than externally. Yeah. Great to have you on the beautiful side of grief, John.
Thank you so much for letting me come on and push the message.
Thanks for listening. I hope you got some real value from this episode. If there's a topic you'd like covered, click on the Beautiful Side of Grief at gmail.com link, or go into the beautifulsideofgrief.com website, where you can also leave a review. To get notified of new episodes, hit the subscribe button. And if you know of somebody who could benefit from this episode, please share. And until next time, please be kind to you and take good care.